gentlemen, you are more than welcome to this, the Coffee at 11 show, episode 61. Cannot believe it, episode 61. Beautiful Monday morning. Delighted that you've chosen to join us. Thank wigwam.ie, SME Peer Support for their ongoing support. And in particular, I'm delighted to have my special guest and a lady I've known and admired for some years now, Gaye Moore. Gaye, you're more than welcome to the Coffee at 11 show. Please.
Thanks so much, Colm.
Show us your coffee mug or your teacup, whatever you have there.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah.
I love it. Very important, very important. Let me tell you, folks, before I bring Gaye in herself, a little bit about Gaye, just to set the scene. So, Gaye Moore, business name, Rise Personal Branding. What does your business do? We create digital PR and social media communication campaigns so that businesses consistently attract clients ready to buy. How long established? 3 years under Rise Personal Branding and 10 years in total. How many employees? 1 plus outsourcing, very important in these days, outsourcing. And then Gaye goes on to say she's been involved in business since she was knee-high to a grasshopper. I haven't heard that in years. Knee-high to a grasshopper, as her parents had a shop, a post office and a petrol station, where she spent many hours before going on to have her own retail shop for 16 years. Therefore, Gaye has a unique insight to communication strategies for businesses and into what attracts customers to buy. I'm quite sure you have indeed, Gaye, with all that experience in the background. And for the past number of years, Gaye has been working with retailers, food manufacturers, the medical profession, engineers, accountants, and business consultants, creating visibility campaigns on several social media platforms and getting them featured in national press and on national radio media. And something nobody knows about Gaye, she says, I win all the football rounds in the family Zoom quiz. There you go. There's a first. So I'm delighted that you're here. Thank you for joining us this morning and looking forward to the chat. Will you take us right back, Gaye? Take us back to those early years, that family business, because that's the formative stuff. I hope that you would bring us all the way back there, go as deep as you wish, and bring us up to the point, the point 10 years ago when things began to change, please.
So I'm from a little village called Crehan Row, which is outside Castleblaney in County Monaghan. And the house that we lived in, my father was born in that house and he died in that house. So that was his family home. And our shop was an old railway station that was based on the Keady in South Armagh to Castleblaney onto Dundalk railway line. So the shop has like loads of history before even my father put a shop into it. So it was a general merchant store, groceries, post office, petrol station, meal shop. We had mushrooms, had mushroom houses. Like, I'm so old. I can remember us selling sugar out of brown Hessian bags. I can remember the Kimberley Mikado in the square tin boxes that you used to lift the lid off of and pick a biscuit out. And we as children used to steal them. I remember the big slabs of bacon that you would put yourself onto the bacon slicer and cut the slice of bacon, you know, no pre-packed stuff at all whatsoever. Yeah, we sold petrol, we sold kerosene. We were the only people with a telephone for a very long time. We used to ring the vet for all the local farmers. And I mean, the funny thing is this summer talking about potato blight, I remember there was a special concoction that we had that we sold out to the farmers to protect the potatoes from the blight, you know. We sold paint, paintbrushes, screws, bulbs, whatever it is you wanted, we had it at that particular time. We also, I don't know if any of you remember picking blackberries and bringing them to your local shop and getting a few pennies, and we did that and we put all the blackberries into these huge barrels, huge big wooden barrels every September, and then they'd be collected. We sold coal, slack, timber, meal, anything you want, I bet you we sold it, you know. So my father left school at 16 and he went and did a secretarial course. He was the only boy in the secretarial course and he was taught by his godmother. And he used to cycle from our house into town 4 miles away to go to the secretarial course and come back from it. But he knew, he was one of 10, he knew that education was the key to success. So with that education then, like he set up the small shop, he introduced the post office, you know, did all that, then changed. We lived 2 miles from the border. So a lot of the truckers used to call to us for diesel, and then when the price would change, they'd go to the petrol station, say in Northern Ireland. So my father would diversify. So then he set up these 10 mushroom houses and he started growing mushrooms. He also reared turkeys, free-range turkeys at another stage. He also tried growing tomatoes, but that was a bit of a failure. That was the only failure I think that didn't work because you needed special heat and stuff like that. Totally vibrant, open-minded man right up to the very end. So like everything I learned about business, I learned from working in that shop. I was in it from 6 or 8 years of age, which you could call child labour, slave labour. But like I enjoyed it so much. I really enjoyed meeting people. You learn so much about human beings in the retail industry. And that's why I think it's such a shame to see the retail industry in Ireland completely decimated at the moment. It's where Irish people go, not just to buy a product, but to have a conversation with the people in the shop, to bring their friends in, to spend time with their family in the shop. I mean, it's so much more than buying a product, absolutely. And we had a big forecourt in front of our shop, and you'd see all the farmers coming and they'd all stand in the Wellingtons having a chat. You'd see the teenagers coming on a Sunday, they'd buy ice cream for us and they'd all stand there and have a chat. You see the mothers with their kids coming and they'd be all standing there having a chat. And like that was outside our shop, you know, before they'd even come in.
Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Gaye, thank you for that. Yeah, Bula bus going on all over the place. You've painted a beautiful picture of times gone past. And regrettably, a lot of what you've described there is long gone. But some of the more recent stuff that's been damaged because of COVID is just that lack of connection. It's this social distancing thing, which perhaps is going to be the more damaging aspect across more people longer term. Can I just bring you back to a couple of things that I was making notes, scribbling away furiously, and thank you for sharing. Love the Kimberly Mikado in the square. Did it have the glass lid?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
I remember that. You mentioned wellies. Somebody was talking, I think it was Bridget, we were talking about black wellies there last time. I presume all the farmers were all wearing black wellies, were they? Back in the day, standing out in the forecourt. But the other thing that you said was, which I thought was huge, was you spoke about your dad being the only boy in a secretarial course. To be honest with that surprised me because that was big. That was big for a man to step out in those days and do something like that. But you went on to say that he said education was the key and he believed that was the case. And then you went on to say he was totally vibrant, open-minded man until the very end. And do you mind me commenting on the fact that I figured your voice a little bit because you lost your dad recently?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, and it still is in my heart. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, forgive me. Yeah, there's heart emojis there. Forgive me for bringing you there, but you know, you and I know each other for the last number of years, and I know how painful that journey was for you.
Yeah. However, like he was 89 when he passed. He lived a full life. He died in his own home. I mean, he had an amazing life, but he was such, for a man of his age to come from this real small community, he was so open-minded. He was ahead of his time, absolutely ahead of his time.
It appears that way, Gaye. It appears that way. And thank you for bringing us there. Thank you for our thoughts are with you. Okay, so you got a phenomenal upbringing. That's what I'm taking from all of this. Phenomenal upbringing, grounded in every aspect of business and community. And what brought you to Limerick? You're in Limerick the last number of decades. What brought you here? And take us through that journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is so funny. I had these big plans to become a world famous fashion designer. And so I came to, I applied for different colleges. So the thing then at that stage was that you would do 1 year's foundation course, which is just all types of art. And then you would do, say, 3 years in either graphics or fashion or whatever it is. So I applied to Dublin and I didn't get it. And then the next college I applied to was Limerick and I got it. And I knew that I had a place in, say, February of the year that I was doing my leaving cert, like you knew in advance because it was based on your art portfolio. So my intention was to come to Limerick for 1 year and then go back up to Dublin to finish, to do the fashion course. But sure, I loved Limerick so much, I just stayed. I mean, I'm here I was in Limerick 40 years, yeah. So I just stayed on and off, yeah. In actual fact, one of the girls that I met the first week that I came to Limerick is my child's godmother, and I'm her child's godmother. We're still friends. So a lot of people that I met then, I'm still really good friends with them. Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, so it is incredible. Yeah, like I just loved Limerick. I really, really loved it. Got totally involved in the community, stayed here, worked here, had my own shop in Limerick, was in different organisations. I just really immersed in it, and obviously used to go home as often as I could. But when I came to Limerick first, I couldn't get home for 6 weeks. It was so far away at that time. And the bus that I took home took 6 hours to get up to County Monaghan. So it was a bit mad, yeah.
Crazy times. I can't believe you're 4 decades here. I would have thought 2, maybe 3 at a push. 4 decades, wow, go you. And I love the fact that your best friend that you met back then and yourself still got that relationship all these years later. It's lovely. Truthfully, I moved to Limerick in '98 and I found the Midwest a really lovely place to do business, really, and live and work and play, I suppose. Gorgeous part of the world. Listen, the shop that you had in Limerick, was that a fashion shop, world famous?
Yeah, bridal shop. I had a bridal shop for 16 years in Limerick. I studied fashion design here in Limerick, and then I travelled, like I ran as a freelance fashion designer for different companies, like in Germany, in London, in Ireland, so I did a lot of freelance work. So I kind of had my freedom, like, to either travel from Monaghan or travel from Limerick or whatever, yes. So I did that for a number of years, and then, like, I worked for retail companies, I worked for design companies, I worked for manufacturing companies, children's wear companies. One of the companies that I worked for, like, they sold all their clothes into Rocha stores at the time. I also was the designer for Swamp Retail, which had about 10 or 15 shops at the time as well. I just gathered as much experience as I could from as many different businesses as I could, to try and get an overall education, again, I suppose is the word, of the way the whole process works. And I lectured in Limerick College then for a number of outside projects that they did also. And actually, fact, Pam McCarthy, the lady who's the head of fashion, is actually 90 this year, so yeah, and I'm still in contact with her, so that's fantastic, yeah.
It is fantastic. There are 3 lives woven into those handful of years. Well done, you. That's incredible, yeah. So clearly education is hugely important to you, brought down through your dad, and hard work is clearly there, clearly. The fashion period of your life, did that come to an end at some point, and why, and how did you get into the work you're doing now, please?
Yeah, I was in the wedding industry, so I started off with a tiny shop that we were just hiring out bridesmaids' dresses, and over a period of 16 years I grew it into a shop that, like, I was designing bridal gowns, I was buying in bridal gowns, I was selling mother of the bride, flower girl, shoes, jewellery. Like, I had the whole business. Like, I changed the name to the wedding shop. I grew it into that over 16 years. But the thing about the wedding industry is that any psychologist who studies retail will tell you that you can only stay in the wedding industry about 12 or 13 years before it burns you out, because that is a 7-day-a-week job. Because you're dealing with brides who are, like, obviously believe, and it's true, this is the day of their lives. They don't care about any other brides, so they want your undivided attention, which is fantastic. However, I used to be getting phone calls like at 3 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night time, because it's actually one of the most stressful times of a bride's life, because A, they're spending money they possibly can't afford, B, losing weight too fast, too quickly, and C, like, having 300 people telling them how to run a wedding day, and it is an extremely stressful time. Like, one bride came to me had collecting her dress and told me at that time she'd gone through 5 checkbooks without the amount of money that she was paying out in the lead up to her wedding. So in the 16 years, in the beginning of it, I would say every bride that was getting married understood what a marriage and what a wedding was about. At the end of it, I would say only out of about 300 brides believed in love, companionship, marriage, what a wedding was about. All the rest of it was about spending money. And, my love for the business has gone out of it, plus I was suffering burnout. And as it turned out then, I think this was about 2009, the landlord, my lease was up and the landlord decided he was going to double the rent. And I said no. I looked after a few brides that I had left for the next 6 months from home, and then the crash came, as it turned out. So I just was happening to make the right decision at the right time. So because I had been more or less counselling brides and coaching them for the previous 16 years, I decided then that I would go and actually get a qualification for something that I'd been doing. And then I went back to college and studied life coaching for 12 months.
That's incredible. That's some story. Yeah, indeed. Build a bus going on all over the place there.
Thank you.
No, it's lovely. It's lovely. From the outside, we don't see all of that. You said that people have studied this, and 12, 13 years, the life cycle of a wedding shop, because it's 24/7. We'd never have considered that. Sort of heart-wrenching stories there about what goes on, and that the focus is all wrong. And I think you said 1 in 300 brides actually
at the end of it,
were in it for love. Incredible, quite incredible. So, by the way, your timing was impeccable. Delighted in your case that the landlord was pushing up the rent before the crash, and you decided I'd had enough anyway. Perfect timing. So happy for you that happened in your case. And then we're back to education is the key, and you go up.
This was not my intended theme, but as I'm talking, it's obviously important.
We're always looking for the patterns here in the Coffee 11 show, and it's interesting because it's only when a guest comes on and starts talking about their life that we can somehow see these patterns, if you like, join the dots going backwards, Okay, so you're into life coaching at this stage. You go off to get a qualification, and then what, please?
Then another side swipe. The Special Olympics came to me and asked me would I fundraise for them for the 2010 Special Olympics National Games. And what had happened was, when I was in the wedding shop, I had run some fashion shows for charities that had been hugely successful. And the Special Olympics came to Limerick, asked Councillor Maria Byrne, would she recommend somebody, and she recommended me. So with all the experience we had in the wedding shop between marketing, we developed a strategic alliance with all the wedding vendors. I set up a Women in Business network from it. I had a huge amount of experience in PR, event management, fundraising. So the Special Olympics then asked me would I work with them for the year leading up to 2010 National Games as their marketing and fundraising coordinator for that 12 months. So I mean, that was just an amazing, incredible experience, and I ended up staying with them way after those games as well, because the amount of goodwill and spend that it brought into the city was just phenomenal at that particular time. And the community of Limerick, my God, they were just incredible. I had hundreds of people running little mini fundraisers, and the amount of money we raised was absolutely astronomical for a short period of time. Yeah. So that was a different version.
Interestingly, Gaye, you used the term sideswipe. Another sideswipe came in the form of the Special Olympics, but it was rather a positive sideswipe. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I just mean that. But I was planning this, life coaching business, and this opportunity came, so I took it. I mean, I'm terrible. I just won't say no. I just could see the potential of this. I thought it would be absolutely fantastic for the city. Yeah.
And it was, and has been, and continues to be. And didn't it repeat in 2014? Didn't it come back?
The only city ever to have kind of it twice outside of Dublin. Yeah.
Really interestingly, this morning it popped up in my memories on Facebook.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Myself and my daughter went along to one of the events at UL, and just came up this morning. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's very powerful work and very good work. So well on you. And it would appear you give your heart to everything that you get involved in. So I've
Oh yeah, I mean, that was just an incredible 18 months. I mean, we worked so hard, but we made great friendships. It was just an opportunity not to be missed. It was fantastic, yeah.
will you touch on the Women in Business Network Summit, please?
Yeah, so when I had my shop in Thomas Street, a lot of the business owners, like at one stage we counted all the individual business owners that were in Thomas Street, and there was about 30 at that time, and a lot of them, we just used to meet for coffee and we'd be giving off saying, look, there's nobody coming in and what are we meant to do, and there's nothing happening in the city, and that. So I said, you know, why don't we get a group together? So as it turned out, it was all women that were interested. So I set up this group called TWB, which was the women's business, and I ran that for about 15 years. So we used to meet every second Tuesday, and we had a conference once a year. We had guest speakers. Everybody got a chance to, you know, talk about their business. We organised social events. We went to Kilkee one weekend. You know, we used to do trips and stuff like that. So like it was just a group for everybody to get together and support one another. You know, and that was really good. Again, we made great friendships out of that, and we had people from all over, say, County Limerick, join us every second Tuesday. And then the conference, it was a national conference. We had got great profile for that then as well.
And did you say you gave that 15 years, Gaye? Did you say 15 years? Mm-hmm. Wow. You really do throw yourself into stuff, don't you?
It's probably my failing. I do too much.
I mean that in a very positive way. You know, when something grabs your attention, you get stuck in and you give it your all. Fantastic. So are we at the point yet? Because it says to me there was a lot of parallel stuff going on there all at the same time, because it couldn't have been 16 years plus 15 plus.
No, I mean the Women in Business group started, say, at the beginning of the wedding shop or midway through, and I continued it on past the wedding shop then as well, you know, so that was an overlap, you know. So, well then after the Special Olympics, then I got invited by another charity called Self-Help Africa to fundraise for them. And the highlight of working for them was that I brought 12 people over to Ethiopia to take part in the Great Ethiopian Run, which like is a 10K, you can run it, walk it, whatever you like, over in Addis Ababa. And I mean, that has about 50,000 people taking part in it. It's absolutely ginormous. So myself and Ronan Scully and Ciara from Self-Help Africa, I had 12 from, say, Limerick. Ronan had another 10, I think, from Galway, and we had a few from Dublin, and we did the most amazing trip. Again, like Paddy on Friday, the poverty over in Ethiopia is just absolutely chronic. I mean, we saw kids coming out of corrugated little shacks going to school in the whitest little shirts that you could imagine. Absolutely pristine, you know. We saw little kids herding camels. And Ethiopia is great, and Self-Help Africa works great over in Ethiopia, and that the credit union over there really support like women farmers, you know, and help them get mini loans and all the rest of it. We went to some of these farms to see them. We were also brought to the, I think it is the Irish ambassador to Ethiopia, to his residence. So you're driving into this amazing residence, and right up against the wall are all these corrugated shacks. It's frightening, absolutely frightening. The hotel we were staying in, if you would call it such, would be, say, judged as a 1-star here. But the people over in Ethiopia are so friendly and so nice and so helpful. And I mean, they all want to help you. I mean, when we were leaving, coming back, and in the duty free as such in Ethiopia airport, like you had nearly 10 people, you know, would you like to buy this? Can I put it into a bag for you? You know, so helpful, so kind, and, you know, not proud, but very grounded in who they are, you know what I mean? And, you know, love to see people coming over, yeah. So that was an amazing experience.
Another picture you've painted, well, not a lovely picture, you've painted a very vivid picture for us, Gaye, there of the you know, the juxtaposition between the absolute poverty and the wealth, if you like, relative wealth. As it happens this week, interesting to have you even comment on that, because I've heard this before about people in these countries, developing countries, where they've got nothing, literally nothing, living in, you know, conditions that we can't even imagine. And yet the children, because we're back to education's key, the children are sent out pristine. And as it happens, on Wednesday this week, BB Baskin is coming on the Café 11. I'm looking forward to that. She spent time in India. And on Thursday, Eddie O'Shaughnessy, I'm sure you know Eddie O'Shaughnessy, he's coming in, and Eddie set up a creche in Kolkata. And he described exactly the same thing. Quite literally living on the side of the road, right? In whatever amount of space. They've been living there for generations. But the school uniform and the school bag is hung on a nail, right? To keep it away from the rats. My shocking stuff that we just can't comprehend. My goodness, I'm back to it. How many lives, Gaye, have you had? Have you lived?
I told you I was old.
Right. We better get into Rise. Right. So how did Rise come about? Rise Personal Brand Consultants.
Okay, so even with working with Special Olympics and working with Self-Help Africa, I still had the Women's Business Network going, and I was mentoring businesses all the time with that, you know. So for like say the Special Olympics, I introduced them to like social media and all the rest of it. And, you know, I just love social media. So my father died 2 years ago, and the year previous to that, I started doing part-time care for him. So that meant I was 4 nights a week up in Monaghan and 3 nights a week down in Limerick, which absolutely like knocked whatever career I had at that particular time on the head. And I said, you know what, I have to do something here to keep me sane other than, you know, going to the chemist, getting prescriptions, and not that I regret doing anything like that, but I wanted something for myself. So I came up with the idea of that I would manage people's social media accounts for them, because you can do that from wherever you are. And like I have loads of PR experience from the Special Olympics, from my own shop. So I created these programs for people, 6-month programs for people, where I would run all their social media programs, write blogs for them, write press releases for them, whatever they needed I would do, and include mentoring in that as well at the same time. And like I was just operating under Gaye Moore, you know, I had no big plan at that thing. It was just something to keep me tipping over, help me stay in contact with people when I came back down to Limerick and stuff like that. And I mean, that was a very tough time caring for a parent. You know, I'll tell you another short story. When I was in secondary school in Castleblaney, all the 4th-year students, females, were brought to Lourdes to help the invalid over in Lourdes. And I was the only one that refused to go, because I said, I'm not a nurse. I can't handle any of that, you know. So, and I actually told this story to my father, because I said to me, no, you're very lucky, because I was the only one in the nun school that wouldn't go, and I was excommunicated nearly from the school for doing this. So I found the caring, whereas I loved doing it for my father, and, you know, it was very tough going. So I wanted something for myself. And I remember talking to my sister one day, you know, about saying he'd been up 3 times during the night and, you know, all the rest of it. And I was really down. And she said to me, do you know something, Gaye, you'll rise from this, you know? So that's where the rise came from. Yeah.
Gaye Moore, Gaye Moore, Gaye Moore, Gaye Moore. I knew there was a story behind the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. Well done you, well done you. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how, and again, we're back to joining the dots backwards, how that period with your dad, which was a time of beauty, dare I say it, because you had to spend it with him. But it, you know, brought you all back to those days when you got excommunicated from the secondary school. Great choice of words.
Dawn, who was the principal of the school, and she wasn't one bit impressed. She wasn't one bit impressed with me because I just refused to go. So
I love it. And for our international guests, this is real stuff. This stuff went on. This stuff went on back in the day. Gaye, lovely, beautiful story. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. So, because the whole idea of the Coffee 11 show is to get to know the person, the business we can Google, right? Oh, yeah. So it's really this stuff, right? But let's touch on the business. Up to COVID, it was going swimmingly.
Yeah.
Did it change?
Oh, it changed big time. I mean, a lot of the businesses that I work with would be, say, retail shops, again, back to retail. And I mean, so many of them just closed on I think it was the 13th of March. However, and it's a mindset. So some of them closed and decided they weren't trading forevermore. And some of them closed and said, you know, how can we reach out to our community? How can we help others? You know, what can we do? So some people stopped working with me. Obviously, there was no problem with that. And others said, look, what can we do? So I stayed working with a few of them, and we reached out to the community. We did some charity gigs. You know, some of them were food orientated. Some of them we really made really good sales for them, even going through COVID, even though they didn't have a website, and we did it all through social media. Then I did some free online trainings for Limerick.ie for the retailers there. And from those now, I have people coming to me because they want me to work with them, say from now on, from July onwards, because the thing is, everybody's going back online and some of the shops are reopening, but you can't now moving forward have one or the other. They have to be integrated. They have to be online plus the human touch, you know. Some people are still afraid to come into shops, so you can have people can have their product bought in their mind before they go to pay in the shop through social media and through digital PR. So I'm actually looking at a very exciting time because I love training, and if you're trained how to do this yourself, you can save yourself thousands of euros, like in the marketing department, you know. So I mean, I've training coming up for like engineers, medical professionals, people in the north of Ireland, people in the south of Ireland, people in the UK. So all this is going to be done through Zoom, but to get behind the personality of each business. I mean, you could be working with 3 hairdressers, but they each have a different personality. You'll be working with 3 clothes shops, they each have a different personality. So what I do is try and get them to get their personality across, you know, and you aren't just looking at a clothes shop buying a dress, you're looking at a clothes shop, the history of that, how it started, why that person started up that shop, and their local community around them then as well. So like kind of that's in a nutshell what I do, yeah.
Well done. Sounds great. And you know, delighted to see that you're going with the flow and you're seeing what's clearly coming down the track, that the world will not go back to the way it was pre-COVID. And I think that largely that's a good thing, dare I say it. I've begun to see this unboxing thing going on social media, where people are waiting for the experience. They're waiting for the box to arrive, and then they're literally Instagramming the unboxing. It's becoming a really big part of retail.
Yeah.
E-tail.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. I'd love to go to Q&A from the floor, and we wish you every success, continued success with Rise. It's just
Thank you.
wonderful. And particularly the backstory, your dad will be very proud. Your dad is very proud.
Thank you.
You're proud. Okay, I want to go to Q&A from the floor, or comment from the floor in just a second. But I always ask my guests to give us one tip about coming out of COVID. You get through COVID, come out the far side in great shape by doing blah. What's that one blah for you, please, Gaye?
Just staying in your own lane. Don't be comparing yourself to everybody else. You know, if you haven't baked the banana bread or, you know, done all the fitness classes, it doesn't matter. As long as you've survived, that you're healthy, that your family is healthy, you know, that you're surrounded by good people. That's it. Stay in your own lane. Don't be comparing yourself to anybody else.
Wonderful. Beautifully put. And the rapturous silent Bula bus that goes on in the cafe. Lovely stuff, Gaye. Gaye, pleasure having you in the cafe today. Thank you very much for coming in, and thanks for getting real with us. That's the whole idea. As I said, we can Google the business, right?
Thank you so much.
Can't Google you. Right, comments from the floor. Who'd like to come in and honour Gaye with a comment? Bridget.
Hi Gaye, how are you?
Hi, Bridget.
Well, I was in my element listening to you. Absolutely in my element. About the shop and the people coming in and all the different things you sold. I mean, it's just an oasis of interaction with farmers and people, and no wonder you're able to diversify into anything in life. It's amazing you haven't become a psychiatrist. It's extraordinary. But I think, what's the stuff they were selling for the blight called Bluestone? Was it Bluestone you were selling?
No, I can see it was a round brown box, but I just can't think of the name of it.
Yes, yeah. Because I remember my father talking about Bluestone, used to put it in the back on a copper knapsack and spray it on the potatoes. But what an extraordinary woman you are. You really are unique. And the absolute, it's when Colm said 15 years here, 16 years here. I mean, that's what you talk. You are a trooper, an actual trooper now, to be able to, to do that. And then, of course, Limerick College of Art's one of my favourite places in Ireland. Jack, what was his famous? Jack Donovan and Jack Shinners and all those people. I mean, so you had the artistic gene there as well. You know, so absolutely fascinating. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Might be contacting you myself for a rise. I think Police College needs a bit of a rise, that's for sure.
Can I tell you something, Bridget? We used to sell newspapers as well as everything else. I used to read your column every single Sunday. I used to look forward to it. It was fantastic. So
thanks.
Somebody put up there was a dietine whatever, and that's what the name of the stuff was for the blight. They just put it in the messaging.
What's it called?
Dietine 375 or 735 or something.
You're the real farmer there. They're perfect. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Oh, Bridget, that was lovely. That was lovely. I'm delighted Gaye recognised you there, because you were, Bridget, you were a huge part of all of our earlier lives. You were.
You never think of that. You never think of that though when you're there.
This icon.
Yeah.
All right, listen, folks, Bridget and Gaye, that was lovely. That was a lovely little conversation there. I'm going to pass over to Princess Shelley, if I may. Princess Shelley, please.
Hey everybody, some lovely comments, and I'll bring us through the comments, and then I think James is going to come in with a quick question for you, Gaye. So I'll bring you in just a moment there, James, stand by. Our first comment came in from Janie Lazar, who we can look forward to hearing from in the cafe a little later on the week. Lovely to have you in the cafe, Janie. Thank you for being here. She popped a few comments in throughout today's chat. Janie says, for people like me who didn't grow up here, Gaye's painting such a vivid picture of her early life with such richness. So yes, I agree, Bridget. Yeah, full of us there. So that was when you were bringing us through all the different things that somebody could get in your shop, Gaye. That's when Janie popped that in. And then when you went on to talk about Limerick and being here for so many years and not intending maybe initially to spend as much time here as you did, in the end, Eamon popped in, our maitre d', he popped in and said, as a child growing up in Drogheda in the 70s and 80s, the local shop was a focal point of social interaction and connection. And then he went on to say, Limerick is the place that helped me figure out in my 40s what I want to be when I grow up. So I think he can relate there to what that area brought to him, like to you. And Donal as well, who we're also hearing from later on in the week for Bloom's Day. Hi Donal, said, I also grew up as a child in a family who had 3 shops, and from an early age had to pack tea from a tea chest, cut bacon on the big slicer, no health and safety regulations then. No. So so thanks for that, Donal. You can relate to that, and I can see everybody in the cafe laughing and remembering those times, that they don't seem 100 years ago at all. And then Janie went on, she came back in then with a comment and said, a burnout, definitely the time to get out. At that point resonates big time with me, and I'm sure everyone in the cafe. And that's when you were bringing us to the kind of limited lifespan of your time in the wedding industry, if you like. I can imagine that it was full on, and then when we were talking about the weddings and that, and how important it is to the bride, not to forget James, who'll be coming in just a moment, and he said, I'm 30 years married and remember my wedding day like it was yesterday, and you know how bad yesterday was. So he's a pup there. So yeah, thank you for that, James. We'll come to you now in just a moment. Janie then again said, what a powerhouse Gaye is. I'm blown away by how much she's done, sees and saw things needing doing, and just did what was right. So a nice accolade and testimonial there, Gaye. Donal asked, I think Gaye also did a show on Limerick City Community Radio. Is that right, Gaye?
Yeah, I did, Rise and Shine.
Rise and Shine now.
Yeah.
Nice segue as well, Rise and Shine. Well done there, Donal, well spotted. And then Janie, when you were talking about Ethiopia, Janie said, similar to Fiji, a country of 2 halves, the haves and the have-nots. The less people have, the more they give of themselves, it seems. I think that was when you were discussing the kindness of the Ethiopian people, Gaye, you know. So yeah, Jamie would have examples, and we look forward to learning a little bit more about that. And then she said you only get the business picture of people who are embracing online. And if, like me, mine went pear-shaped for many years, and they're only just revisiting now. So just before I hand over, and this always happens when we start the comments, they always come in kind of thick and fast. And Kristen, who has had to pop away, she joins us each day, and then she embarks on an 18-kilometre cycle to work. And she just said before she popped off, thank you for sharing your story. You are a humble but very amazing person, and it's great to watch your presentation. Wishing you a wonderful day. And I'm sure that's for everybody in the cafe. So thank you for that. And then finally, Eamon popped in your links, Gaye, so they can access you there with your Rise Personal Branding Facebook page and your LinkedIn. So again, we urge the cafe goers there, you can access Gaye this way. Which then brings me, James, if you would like to unmute your microphone, I believe you do have a question there for Gaye, and you can be live.
Well, first of all, Gaye, thank you so very much for sharing your story. I was brought up in a pub in London, so I know what it's like it's like university of life. You learn everything, even things you're not supposed to know. I was just wondering, you were, and Colm brought it out, the fact that you were doing so many different things at the same time. I'm just wondering if that diversity helps not only combat the burnout, but also keeps everything fresh, because you're jumping from all these different things. But the flip side of that is you can be too busy then. And I just wonder how you manage that balance.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I mean, probably I had the wedding shop, which was like 6 days a week. I had a 7-year-old daughter when I closed the shop, and I was doing the TWB, and I did suffer burnout. I went back to college, and that was one thing, going to college and then minding my child. Yeah. So I don't recommend doing all these things, but I have a very open, creative mind, and I love learning all the time. And sometimes to my own detriment, I can learn too much, you know, or I can take on too much. But I totally agree with you, because like last October, I moved out to this tiny village beside a lake, and I only do 1/10 the stuff now that I used to do before. So yeah, beware of burnout. It can knock you for 6. So I try to learn in different ways. Like I do meditations down by the lake every morning. I go walking. You know, I have much more boundaries around me now than I did when I was in the wedding shop. And I switch off my phone after 6. You know, but yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Thanks for that great question. Thank you, James. I think Gaye did a great job of answering your question there, didn't she? Thank you very much, Gaye. And I know that also brings in, I know Eamon often asks the question about grounding, so you've kind of answered that as well for us. So thank you very much. Thanks, Bridget, for coming in, and thanks, James, and especially all the comments. It really makes for a beautiful and colourful show, and we love the comment section. I'm delighted to hand back over, before we wrap up, to the wonderful Colm O'Brien. Thank you, Colm.
Thank you, Princess Shelley, and that is one of my favourite parts of the show, by the way. It is, loath though I am to admit it, but I mean, it's great, it's great. Actually, Janie popped a lovely comment in there. Janie's coming in as our guest on Friday, looking forward to that. Popped in, nothing like being here live in the cafe. Until recently, I haven't been able to pop in, so I have to watch a fair few replays. The show is amazing, hats off to the team. So I go along with that 100%. 100%, Janie. Blessed with some wonderful people. And the team, by the way, includes the audience, so thank you for all being here. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what's going on tomorrow in the cafe. We have Donald Thurlow, Mr. Donald Thurlow, a 30-year school teacher, a retired school principal after 20 years. And now he spends his time talking, reading about James Joyce. I'm looking forward to having Donald zoom in on Bloomsday tomorrow. That's going to be quite exciting. Donald, looking forward to that immensely. Okay, listen, lovely show. Gaye Moore, thank you for taking the time to come and share with us and get real with us.
I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Indeed, it has been our pleasure, and I love that interaction. You see, what happens is you come in and you just share your story, and we all hear the same story, we all hear the same words, we just listen with different ears because of our different experiences, and that's why that interaction is so rich in the Princess Shelley piece. So thank you for that. I do want to thank the team, Princess Shelley, Eamon Smith, the monk, Princess for producing the show, Eamon for keeping us safe and secure. Of course, in advance, Katrina O'Brien for making this beautiful by topping and tailing it this evening. We shared it on social media. Thank wigwam.ie, SME Pearce Support for their ongoing support. And of course, I want to thank Gaye Moore. It's been a pleasure. So I'll finish the show as I always do by saying, Gaye Moore, namaste.
Thank you.